Hello and welcome. In this video, I will show you how we can quickly create an application in Vue.js using Quasar framework. Vue.js is the third most popular library after Angular and React to create single-page applications. Other than SPA, we can develop server-side rendered applications to improve the search engine optimization, progressive web applications, and mobile applications also. Main features which are provided by the Vue.js are UI binding, virtual DOM to improve performance, mechanism to build UI components, and the state management. Quasar framework is based on Vue.js to make our job much easier by providing various features out of the box. For example, it provides numerous UI components, helps to design layout, and some utility packages. In order to create application, Quasar provides CLI tool. To install the CLI, we will be required Node.js. If you guys don't have already Node.js, it can be downloaded from nodejs.org. Once we have Node.js, then we can proceed with installing the CLI tool. So I will use npm. I'm installing it globally so I can execute it anywhere. It will take a few seconds to complete the installation. Yes, and next step is to create using the CLI to create project. So Quasar is a CLI tool and I'm using create command, and then I have to give the folder name. So it will ask a couple of questions. First, the project name. The by default the first underscore app, that's fine. We can change it if we want. Product name that is used for mobile apps. That's description, author name, CSS preprocessor. There are three options available. I normally recommend, I actually myself have a preference with this one, SCSS. Then there is a strategy of importing the components in Quasar. The third option, it will import everything, but when you import everything, of course, it will increase the build size. Second option, everything you have to do manually. Whatever components you are using, you have to import it manually. Third option is it will install whatever you are going to use it or components in use, it will auto import that one. Since we are learning in the learning phase, so I will go with this option. There are various features, ESLint, the Vuex, that is a for state management, Axios Ajax library, Vue-i18n for internationalization, IE11 support, yes. Since we selected the ESLint, so it will ask what type of preset we are going to use it. I personally like this criteria. Then the ID for Cordova or capacitor if we are building any mobile application. Once the project is ready, if we want to execute npm install, then we can go for that. If we want to execute this command manually, then I can choose the third option. Why we need this one? Actually, npm install, those who are already familiar with the node.js, actually, if we want to install the dependencies, then we have to execute this command npm install. So once the project will be created, it will automatically execute it if I use this command. I can also go with the yarn. but for this exercise I am using npm. It will take some time because it is installing the dependencies, creating a project folders. We are almost there. Once it is there, we it will create a folder first underscore app. So that's the project created. So we can see there are various files it. Now in order to run this project, again I will use CLI tool, Quasar, and I will use command dev. So it opened the browser with this web page, localhost colon 8081, and this is a working application. So very simple, nothing special. Couple of links. So that's the first project which we have created. We have successfully created project using the Quasar CLI. Now the next step is to configure ID so that we can edit our source code and debug it. There are a variety of IDs available in the market, but in this tutorial we are going to use Visual Studio Code, which is available open source and the free from the Microsoft. So let's go for Visual Studio Code. I'm going to search on my Google. Very first link is the correct one. So it is available for a variety of platforms including Macintosh, Windows and the Linux. So you can download it as per your platform. It's very simple and straightforward. I already have it on my system, so I'm not going to reinstall it. So let me open the one in my system, Visual Studio Code. So this is the home screen. I need to open my project which we created in a previous lecture. So I'm going on File, Open Folder. This is a project which I created in my exercises folder. So I selected it and it loaded the project. Once this ID installed and the project is opened, as you can see there are a variety of options available, but it also contains one very important option, that is a terminal. So it contains the built-in terminal. If I go there, new terminal, it opened it here, and using this I can execute commands which previously I executed it using command prompt. So it's my command prompt built in into the Visual Studio. And here it is. So project executed and is running now. Okay, so we have set up Visual Studio Code, opened the project and executed the project using the terminal. Now, but in order to use editor effectively for the source code editing and the debugging purposes, we need to configure and we need to install various extensions. How we will know about those extensions? If we go into the Quasar website, go to the Get Started, and on the left side if you see, this is a section which provides various information how to configure Visual Studio Code. click on that. So there are a section if we are using the standard ESLint or if we are using prettier ESLint. If you remember, while creating a project using Quasar CLI, I chose the prettier format for the ESLint. So that's why I will follow this section. Okay. Based on your selection, you can choose either this one or this one. Depends how you created the project. Now for this one, actually, there are three extensions which are quite useful. The first one is ESLint. ESLint makes it possible to find the errors in the JavaScript code. The prettier makes a consistency in our source code, and it provides a consistent look in all the sections of the code. Vue provides syntax highlighting, auto completion, and many other features. So these are three very important extensions. So let's install these one by one. So this is my Visual Studio Code Editor. This one is this extension section. Here I can choose the first one, ESLint. This one. So just install it. I already have it. Otherwise, I will have an icon like this, install, and when I click on this, it will be installed. After ESLint, prettier code format. Yes, this one. I will install this one, but since it's already there, so I don't need to do any action. And the third one is Vue. Once we install all these three extensions, then we need to change our settings in the Visual Studio Code in a certain file. This file is the open setting JSON, and how I can find this one? It will be available using Control Shift P. So if I press Control Shift P, it opens the palette, and the file name is open settings. Yeah, very first one. And I need to copy this one and paste it there. Okay, and that's all. Just save it. Now my configurations are done for Visual Studio. But all these are for source code editing. It is for finding the errors, for syntax highlighting, for formatting, all these things. Okay, so we configured Visual Studio for the source code editing. Next step is we need to configure our editor for debugging purposes. So if we go into the same section, we can find, so we actually followed this section, and if we go down, there is a section debugging a Quasar project in Visual Studio Code. First thing, we need a debugger from Chrome extension. This extension will help us to debug the application which is running in the Chrome while doing in the Visual Studio Code. So I mean, we can put the breakpoints in Visual Studio Code, and while the application is running in the Chrome. That is possible only through this extension. So we need to set up this extension, in the extension section, search debugger for Chrome and install it. Once you are done, then we need to put in our configuration file, in our project configuration file. Every actually Quasar project have very important one file, that is a quasar.conf.js, and it's a very complex file, very lengthy. I will explain it as we move it, but for the time being we need to find a section, the build, and there we have to put it, this one, dev tool source map. So it will map the application running in the Chrome with the source code in Visual Studio Code. So for example, if we will put the breakpoint in the Visual Studio Code, then the execution will stop in the browser because we have put that breakpoint in the Visual Studio Code. That happens if we correctly map it. Once this is done, then we need to create our debugging configuration. For that, we need to go into the run section. There is a launch.json. Open it. And you can see there is a configuration element which is taking an array. And then it takes an object. And in object, we specify configuration for each browser. So you can see there is a configuration for the browser already there because I already typed it there, but you can copy it here and put it there like this. Okay, so this is the setting we need it for debugging purposes. Now the next step is to run the application so that we can debug it. So let's try out. Again, in the terminal, I will use Quasar command line to execute my application or to run my application. Yes, and application is running now on 8080. You have to make sure that whatever is here port, you need to type the same port here in launch.json. Sometimes in some systems the 8080 port is already used, so then in that case the Quasar CLI will assign another port for that, which will be maybe 8081. So whatever the port is there, then you have to use the same port here. Okay, so now our application is running. We need to start our debugger. Before that, I will put a breakpoint. Maybe it's in some JavaScript. I will put a breakpoint here. Okay, now execution should stop here. So if I run my debugger, an application stopped there. So it is working correctly. And you can see there is also a debugger toolbar appearing in Visual Studio. So I can execute it step by step. And the application is running. So this is how we can debug application in Visual Studio Code.